All right, I'm hitting the go live button now. We'll let everything get synced up. We'll wait for everybody to join, and we'll get started in about 60 seconds. Sounds fun. Gonna build some PowerShell stuff tonight. Could be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. I mean, I do this pretty much every night, but you know, it's fun to actually like live stream it. This is what I've been doing for a while now, and it's just been a little hobby of mine. So in about 30 seconds, we'll get started and go from there. I'll try and keep my eye on the chat log as we go. It's a little after 8, so we can get started in, a few more seconds. Just let some people join if they want to join. If not, whatever. It's cool. All right. I say let's just go ahead and kick this thing off. So, network automation, big deal. Everybody knows that I'm not a stranger to network automation, and I particularly love software development kits. I love SDKs because they greatly simplify the way we work with these platforms. I really enjoyed shooting like the ACI SDK, the Meraki SDK, the DNA Center SDK whenever I was doing the CBT Nuggets courses for the Dev and Associate exam. But there's not a lot of love for the PowerShell community, right? So I started thinking about it the other, like maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was like, how hard would it be to actually create real PowerShell commandlets, a real PowerShell module, a real PowerShell SDK? So I started digging into it a little bit more, and a little bit more, and it's like, well, it doesn't look that bad. And then, of course, you dig into it, and it is a little more challenging than you originally thought. But, I kind of, this is what I've been doing pretty much every night now. I just, sit in bed while we're watching TV or whatever, and I'm using my Dell XPS Developer Edition on Ubuntu, and I've got .NET Core and PowerShell Core installed on it, and that's what I've been using to develop some Meraki Powershell Commandlets, right? So since I was going to be doing this anyways tonight, I figured, what the heck, let's just give it a shot, see what we got. So, intro, then we'll go. All right, we should be coming back right about now, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pull up the Meraki SDK documentation, and we'll just kind of this is kind of what I've been doing every night. I just pull up the documentation, and I'm like, you know what? This one looks like it'll be fun to do. Let's turn this command, this API call, into a PowerShell command. So, without further ado, let's do my screen, and you'll see exactly how I build a PowerShell commandlet specifically for the Meraki SDK, which is what I've been doing every night. Cool, let's do it. All right, so you should be seeing my screen right about now. I'll bring up the web browser. We'll fix my mic. And here's what I do. I just Google Meraki SDK. I bring up the Open API specification. This is the web page where you can actually load the SDK. And it loads, and if you scroll down, all of these things over here on the left-hand side, these are the categories. So if you expand devices, then we can see all of the different REST API commands to get, device-specific things. So get network device, get organization device, and so on. So I've kind of just been thumbing through these at random and just grabbing one, and so it's like, oh, that looks like it'll be fun to do tonight, and, that's kind of, just how I've been doing it. So let's do something like clients. And we've got, I think I've already got Get Network Clients. I'm pretty sure I've already done that one. Or Get Device Clients. Have I done Get Network Clients and Get Device Clients? There's one quick way to find out. Let's just check the SDK, github.com/data. I can't even keep up with all the ones that I've done, which isn't that many. I just, you forget these things. Okay, so we've got, there's devices and there's clients, but are these network clients or are these device clients? I should probably clean that up. All right, so it looks like these are network clients. These aren't device clients, but I thought I had already done device clients too. Oh, there's device clients right beneath it. So I've done network clients and device clients. So those are out. Cool. Let's see what else we can find. Layer 3 firewall. That could be cool. Let's do that. Get network layer 3 firewall rules. Okay, cool. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this REST API thing into a PowerShell commandlet. So how do we go about doing that? Well, first steps, you have to have .NET Core 3.1 installed. You have to have PowerShell installed. So if you're doing this from scratch, I can kind of show you. Let's just create a folder real quick right here. We'll just call this like demo, something simple like that. We'll navigate into the demo folder, and I'll bring up command prompt. Did you know you could do this? You can click up here in the little browser, type CMD, and it brings up a command prompt in that folder. Isn't that cool? So to create a PowerShell commandlet from scratch, you'll do .NET new PS module, straight from that command line. You press enter there. No, it says you have not installed the PowerShell module yet for .NET Core. Again, I've been doing all this development on my Linux machine, so I haven't installed this yet right here. So let's highlight this and then paste it. There we go. Run the command, so it's going to install the actual PowerShell module template. Now, if I run .NET new PS module, hey, look at that. A lot better results this time, isn't it? Cool, restore succeeded, and you see what it did. It created your project file and the actual commandlet itself. If I open this with VS Code, well, this is what that actual commandlet looks like. And this is what you would get started with. You could build this and run this right now, and you'd have a fully functioning PowerShell commandlet, and we'll dig into the syntax of this a little bit more later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder here, and we'll say this is going to be Meraki SDK, something like that. And I will bring up, actually I'm going to bring up git CLI. I'm not sure what directory I'm in right now. We'll navigate into D and then Meraki SDK. Oop. There we go. Now I'm in that Meraki SDK folder. And I'm going to clone my already working repository to this particular drive. So let's go back to my repo. Clone or download, get the link, paste it in. Cool. Now I've got my working folder here. So if I go back and I see my Meraki SDK, it's now cloned that PowerShell SDK repository here. And there's all of the commandlets that I've already done. So when I add a new commandlet to it, it'll automatically build with the rest of them. Isn't that great? So here's what I do. I've been doing all of this in VS Code, which is, fancy schmancy and fun. The fact that VS Code can still do C# development is pretty nice too. I'm going to add a new workspace to that VS Code instance. We call this Meraki SDK, PowerShell SDK. This is the folder that I want to add, and there's all my stuff. It keeps prompting me about virtual environments, but what I want to do is I want to start working with C# commands. Here we go. That looks good. All right, cool. So here's the syntax that we're going to work with. Since we're doing git commands, this is the basic gist of it. So right here, we've got all of our using statements. And of course, we're importing the management automation stuff because that's what PowerShell lives in. We're doing threading tasks because we've got some asynchronous calls here. You see, the HTTP methods in .NET Core, they all use asynchronous calls, or a lot of them use asynchronous calls. PowerShell doesn't handle async and await very well, and we're going to dig into that a lot more. Of course, since it's an API, we're doing the system.net HTTP and HTTP headers so that we can set those headers. We're using the new system.text.json. We're not using Newtonsoft. So this is for deserializing those JSON responses, and it's pretty nice and quick, and it works pretty well. And then of course we have generic collections because we are dealing with lists of objects being returned to us. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file real quick, just like I do. We're saying this is git mx layer 3 firewall. Do I want to put rules there? Nah, it's going to make it really long. Commandlet.cs. So git mx layer 3 firewall commandlet.cs. That's for C#. And I've got my empty C# file. Now, let's take a look at the parameters that are required to make this request work in Meraki. Okay, I see that it requires the network ID. That is going to be the main parameter that it needs. In fact, that's the only parameter that it needs looking at the center of the screen. So ideally, I'm going to kind of drawing on the screen here for a second. Here's kind of how I would do it. I would do a get Meraki orgs. So that way it gives me a list of organization IDs. I'll filter out to get the right org ID that I want. This is the alias for a where clause in PowerShell. Then with those results, I'll pipe those results to get that one org that I need, and then say get Meraki nets. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all this in a second. Get the specific network that I need, and then pipe that to get layer 3 firewall rules. Okay, so the reason that PowerShell is powerful is that you can run a command and it spits the output to what they call the pipeline. This is a big deal. And using this pipe command, we can send the output of this command into the next command. And the next command can automatically determine, which pieces go where. So in this case, if I'm saying this command get Meraki nets, it requires an organization ID. I can take the output of get orgs and it will automatically detect when it goes to run this command the correct organization ID field, and it will automatically just pass the parameters from one command to the next. So I can literally just pipe commands one into the other without having to store anything really in RAM with variables. It just goes from one command to the next. That's why PowerShell is so stinking powerful. All right, clearing the screen. So here's the idea. At this point, this get Meraki layer 3 firewall rules, this is going to come after we've run get Meraki orgs, and then after we've run get Meraki nets. Once we've got a network ID, we'll pass that into this parameter right here. Okay, cool. So looking at this commandlet, this one has already accepted the get Meraki ID. So let's start copying this chunk here, paste it in. Cool. All right, I've got my namespace set up. And now I'm going to copy the opening brackets here and start copying this chunk of stuff so I get my parameters and my class. All right, big important stuff here. So this is where we're declaring the class, right? In this case, it's not going to be get Meraki clients. It's going to be get, let's change this to be something like, MX L3 firewall, something like that. So that's going to be the name of the class, but right here, this little decoration where we decorate the class is where we annotate the class. This is where we actually determine what our PowerShell commandlet is going to be. We've got a verb, which is how PowerShell commands are all done. They're verb hyphen noun. So in this case, it's saying get, and we're going to change this Meraki clients to be MX. Let's call it L3 firewall, something like that. So we'll run get hyphen MX L3 firewall. Now this output type, we're going to change this later. This is going to be the class of that firewall rule that we're going to set up later. Now we can see the parameter is the first parameter that we are required to run. This mandatory right here says we're required to run this commandlet with this parameter. Well, that's going to be our authorization token. We'll use the DevNet sandbox for this testing to make sure that that's working. And then the second parameter that's required to run this command is going to be the network ID. Remember, that's what we're going to be passing into the actual URL of our command. All right, let's copy some more chunks of code here, the main body of the stuff, and we're going to basically butcher this whole thing in just a minute. All right, we'll copy this chunk here. Cool. And there is one more that it's missing here. There we go. Now we're going to add our classes later, but here's basically the gist of it. PowerShell commands. PowerShell in general runs with a begin, process, and end. The process record right here, this is your main method. This is what is going to kick off the execution of your actual calls. So what I learned the hard way is that PowerShell doesn't really honor async and await very well. So finding my pin here, let me kind of diagram what's really going on here. Originally, when I did this, I told this to call a method that made the request to the URL, and it awaited, you see right there that await, the return of deserialized async. But here's the thing. When I was awaiting that method call up here in the process record doesn't care about that. Process record said oh, I made the call, this whole script must be done, and PowerShell stopped running even though it was still downloading clients. So what I ended up having to do to make this whole thing work is I created a method that returns the task. Then I've got a little helper method in the middle that says wait on that task. This will literally stop PowerShell from executing until the task is completed. Then it returns the results to the main method. So it's kind of complicated and tricky. And as I start digging into this a little bit more when we're doing the layer 3 firewall rules, we'll be able to explain it a little bit more as we go. All right, cool. So anyways, here we go. So now what we need to do is we need to build our class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this little sample payload here. This says this is what the response is going to look like in JSON when it comes back. So I'm going to copy this little sample payload and go to JSON to C#.com. Paste it in, generate, and there's my class, just like that. That is my layer 3 firewall rule in C#. Okay, now next question you're asking yourself is, why did I need to do that? Let me just clean this up a little bit. There we go. Okay, why did I need to do that? So the way this, again, works is I have to convert from JSON to C#. So this is going to be turned, the JSON response, each one of those firewall rules is going to be deserialized into this particular object, this class object. Then when PowerShell runs this object, it's going to be spit out and converted into a PS object, a PowerShell object, so that we can run PowerShell commands against it. And that happens right here on this line, write object. That's what turns that C# object into a PowerShell object. So I'm going to change the name of this to be MX firewall rule. And then wherever I see the old classes that I copied in and pasted, I'm just going to change it real quick. So the first one is, what is the default output type? This is where we say the default output type is going to be the MX firewall rule. And that's how it knows when we write the object, where'd it go? Right there. When we write the object, the output type is going to be of that class. PowerShell can then go, oh, I'm going to turn that class into a PowerShell object. Now, right here, we were returning well, a lot of things. This was that asynchronous call where we're setting up the actual HTTP request. This returns the task that gets awaited, which returns a list of MX firewall rules. So we call this get, well, actually, let's change that. Let's change this to get firewall rules. So we'll call get firewall rules, pass in the token and the network ID, because the token will be used to make the X Cisco Meraki API key, and the token is right there. So this is going to add a header, the authentication header, that's required for all Meraki calls. We have to have the X Cisco Meraki API key and the actual token value. Then we're also going to be changing the URL here to be the correct URL. What is that correct URL? It's right here. Let's copy that, change this, paste, and we're going to clean this up to be net ID. Okay, there we go. That looks a little bit better. So now when get firewall rules runs, it's going to have the Meraki API token, and it's going to make a get request to that correct, almost correct, URL, which ends in L3 firewall rules. And then it's going to try to deserialize the JSON results into that C# object. But what C# object is it? Well, that's what this is saying right here. MX firewall rule. Okay, so makes a GET request. JSON payload is sent back. We tell the JSON deserializer to deserialize it into a list of MX firewall rules while it's awaiting on that stream task that's run here. So the method that called get firewall rules, well, that happens right here in our little helper method, get firewall rules, where we pass in the token and net ID to that method right there. So it is going to be returning that task that's a list of firewall rules, stores it in a task variable, tells it to wait. When it's finally done, it grabs the results of that little await call as a variable called result. Then it returns the final results, which is going to be the deserialized firewall rules, right here to the main method, process record. Once the list of all of those objects are sitting right here, we use write objects and the true Boolean parameter here that tells it to send each one of those objects to the PowerShell pipeline. and it's done. Blech. Ooh, that's a mouthful. So I think, oop, I missed one right there. MX firewall rule. I think I just about got it. Let's see, MX firewall rule, MX layer 3, MX layer 3 firewall. Get firewall rules, get firewall rules. Got the right URL. All right, I think we're looking good. Okay, so how do I turn this into an actual PowerShell commandlet? Well, all I'm going to do is right-click here, open in terminal. So I see I've got this open in my terminal now. I'll say .NET build. Let's see if that works. Hey, no warnings. Build succeeded. That's a good sign. Okay, cool. Let's do some magic here. Do I have PowerShell Core installed on this computer? I don't think I have PowerShell Core installed on this computer, y'all. That's embarrassing. Well, we can get that real quick. PowerShell Core. We are looking for version 7. Ah, I like that even better. We'll just use the .NET command line real quick. Boop, boop. So how was y'all's day? Y'all having a good time? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Well, I was really hoping to get PowerShell version 7 installed. Let's see if I can get that going. PowerShell Core 7. That's the one that I want. Not version 6.2.4. That's no fun. That's no fun for everyone. All right, scrolling on down, there's version 7 release candidate. Assets. Windows. Well, there's a lot of installers. I wonder which one's the best one to go with. Probably the MSI, huh? Didn't think you were going to have to sit there and watch me install PowerShell, huh? There we go. Next. Install. Yes. At least it's a fast install, and now you get to see how to install PowerShell Core. Doo-doo-doo. All right. Cool. Let's hit start. There's PowerShell 7 up here now. Great. Now we're looking good. Okay, so how do we got this here. This is cool. How do we turn this actually into usable stuff? Well, let's do cd e/. Oh, wait, this is on D drive. Okay, cd d:/. This was Meraki SDK. We have to navigate into our working folder. Give it an ls. There's my stuff. Then we're going into cd bin. Then I think it's /debug. Yep. cd net standard. Ah, you got to spell it right. 2.0. Oh no. Well, this is a tough one. All right. Well, anyways, I think I know what to do anyway. So here's what we're going to do. We've got PowerShell pulled up. We'll do import module. This is kind of what we're doing. So what it did is when it ran and it built, we did we do .NET build? Yeah, we did .NET build. Everything was successful right here. What it did is it took all of these scripts, these C# scripts that I've created here, all of these commandlets, and it compiled them right here into this little DLL. So we got to do import module on this DLL. So here's probably the easier way to do it. Let's just grab that. Space. There we go. Not much to it. So now if I actually do something like get help, get Meraki orgs, what does it do? Hey, look, we actually get output and it shows you what the required parameters are, right? So we need to set a token. So I've got a token stored already for Meraki. It is right here. Let me just highlight this token. We'll store that. Nope, not hashtag. $. Paste. Cool. Token is stored. So now I can say get Meraki orgs. Specify my token variable. Let me move my mouse. So, like I said, that's going to pipe, or that's going to bring output to the pipeline. In fact, you know what? Let's just do it. Let me just show you what it's going to look like. See? Just like that. Very quick, thanks to the fact that C# compiled this, you know, and it's so fast. Okay, so now what I can do is I can do something like pipe that. So that output right here that you just saw is going to get sent to the pipeline. And what I can do now is I can say where object, and I can filter it out by saying name equals something like DevNet Sandbox. So now this will say the Meraki orgs has been sent to this, all that list has been sent to this pipeline, and it filters out to just this guy right here. So this guy will be the only one remaining in the pipeline at that point. So now when I run get Meraki nets, I'll specify my token one more time, but I don't have to specify my org ID because org ID will be automatically detected by the pipeline, and this value 549236 will be sent into that pipeline. So watch what happens when I run this. See? Just like that. This is all of the networks that exist in the DevNet Sandbox organization. So now I think there's one in particular that I really like to work with, DNSMB3. That is the network that has, you know, a lot of features in it, like Meraki firewall features, wireless features, switching features. So if I hit up one more time, I'll pipe that output to where object will filter out to just DNSMB3. We'll say .name equals DNSMB3. I'm going to run this just to confirm I only get one result. Make sure that that's working correctly. Cool. There it is. There's my one result. Now I think we are ready to pass this to get. I already forgot the command. Get MXL3 firewall. Was that what I said? Oh man, this is embarrassing. Let's see. What was the name of the command again? Get MXL3 firewall. Okay. So I'll specify my token one more time. It should automatically pass the net ID into that. Fingers crossed. Oh no, I wonder where the JSON value could not be destination port. Okay, let's take a look at the class. What is the value set for destination port? That is set to integer. And you know what? I bet this was trying to return any as string. So what I have to do, so this is the next thing. When this returns an error and I need to recompile this, the problem is that DLL is now currently being used by this PowerShell session. So I do have to exit PowerShell. And then at that point, I'll close this little terminal too. So I've changed this to string. Now I can, nope, .NET build one more time. Okay, so that's rebuilt. I will relaunch PowerShell 7. And I hope I can thumb up. I can thumb up a few times and do the import module. That's great. Let's see. I think that's about all I can do. Okay. Well, we'll have to do this again. Get Meraki. You know what? There's actually a better way to do this. We're just going to type it out in case we have to do this again. We'll just call this holder.ps1. Okay. Token. What was that token? Where'd my... Here we go. Whoop. There we go. Get Meraki orgs token. That was piped. Where object name equal DevNet Sandbox pipe get Meraki nets token, pipe, where object name equals DNS-MB3. Pipe that to get MX layer 3 firewall. Okay, there. So now that I've got this imported, all right, let's try it again. 404 not found. Is that because I typed something wrong around here? Let's see. Nope, I found that. So there's the net ID. I wonder. Get Meraki L3 firewall. I wonder if it's actually having some issues getting that. We can actually do some real testing in Python. Find that out pretty quick. Let's do networking. Meraki. Oh, close that. Get networks. Let's do like something like get clients. Is that from networks? Cool. So I've already got this script built out for Python. I use this for testing, you know, when I get to some issues like this. So I can just change the URL input real quick. It's already searching for, let's do DNS-MB3. And just debug this and see what kind of output we get. Select Python interpreter. Oh, why is my Python not working? I might need to run this as administrator. Oh no. Go ahead and install this. No Python. You need to select Python interpreter. Try it again. Nope. Still don't like it. That's a bummer when it won't even let you run your Python scripts, right? May have to try this on another computer. Run a gajillion Python scripts in this thing, and today it blows up on me because of VS Code settings. Oh no, well, might not be able to get this one tonight. That's okay. You don't win them all, do you? Let's see, if I do get MX layer 3 firewall, what was the error that it returned here? I know it says 404 not found. Well, we could also test with Postman, can't we? Probably should have tested with Postman in the first place. Meraki environment. And grab get layer 3 firewall rules. Let's do this. Let's set that to be DNS-MB3. Cool. So this should have the correct network ID that I was expecting. Ends with 345. What do I have here? Ends with 345, so that should be a good test. Now if I come here, I can change this to that layer 3 firewall rules real quick. Send it in. we do get a 200 OK response to that URL. Well, that is peculiar. And it does return a list. And it does return any, all that stuff. So this is all strings, so that's all right. Why are you telling me that it's not found? Because there are 2 backslashes, you guys! No! Oh, man. Because that's not a real URL. Man. Okay, that's fine. We're fine. Everything is fine. Bring up this in a new terminal.net build. Cool. All right, let's... Yeah, you guys, it's so embarrassing. Okay. Try my script. Here we go. Oh, man, still 404 not found. That's peculiar, isn't it? I don't think that would have anything to do with it, but we could try putting a backslash. Let's just make sure it's networks, network ID, layer 3 firewall rules. Networks, net ID, layer 3 firewall rules. That's all. That's the right URL, that's for sure. In fact, we'll do this just to be safe. Copy that in. Delete you. Cool. That is definitely the right URL. Exit. Ah. Okay. Okay, let's see. I don't know why it's returning a 404 response. Clearly that's the right URL. Get MX layer 3 firewall. We're passing in the network ID from DNS-MB3 there. Right? If I just filter out DNS-MB3, that is... Nope, the token. Ah. Exit. Wrong part. Okay, so it is net ID. It should match that up 1-to-1. Just out of curiosity, if I hard code that, what does it do? Okay. Oh, nope. Not PowerPoint. I don't use PowerPoint. Never used PowerPoint. Okay. Nope. Import the module. Copy the script. Still returning 404. Well, I think this one's got me stumped. Thought it was going to be an easy one, right? Yeah, thought this would be an easy one, but there is just not going to work. Just not going to work tonight, even though it works perfectly fine right here. It's always funny when this stuff happens because, you know, I've done this a gajillion times with these other commandlets that, you know, clearly work fine, and then this one, for whatever reason, is just not gonna, it's just gonna throw a 404 tonight. For this one network that works fine in Postman, which is really the most peculiar part, right? Let's see. If I just do get orgs, what does it do? Returns the list of organizations. Get org networks. Returns the list of networks. Okay. Well, this one's got me stumped. I'm not really sure what to do about this, so I will have to keep digging into this some more later. Well, that's the gist of how you make a commandlet on the PowerShell, but sometimes, you know, you go live and do the same stuff that you would do every night, but then, of course, because you're live, you get beat. That's okay. That's part of it, right? Oh, man, you know what? I hope it's something like this. There it is. Okay, at the buzzer. Literally about to throw in the towel and say I'm beat. I can't figure this thing out, but there it is. I just forgot to pass in the mandatory parameter of a token. Just like that. But there it is. There's the you know, there's an actual working commandlet. So, now all I have to do is check it into source control, which is exactly, you know, one of the things I do. So, let's see. I see a lot of cool stuff here. This is all the stuff that it compiled. There's my commandlet. So, let's first of all stage everything. Changes are staved. We'll say git mx layer 3 firewall added. Oh, duh. Well, I'll add all that stuff later. That way we got the git global, git username all set. And then I will check this script in. So that's it. That's a working commandlet. That's what I've been working on every night. If I get one commandlet in, I'm happy. And there's one that I just got done. Oh, you know what? We didn't parameterize this. Okay. Okay. Got to make sure it works right, guys. Exit. Build. PowerShell. Import the module. Copy the script, but fix the script. There it is. Okay, there. Now it still works. It's dynamic. It can work with any network ID. It wasn't that a hard-coded network ID. Okay, so I'll check this into source control, and we are all set there. That's it. That's making a commandlet with C# for Meraki. I know I kind of like just skimmed over stuff because this is really just like I was just live streaming my workflow. But you know, there's some big things in there, mainly that, you know, you got to keep in mind that the PowerShell when it's running process record, it's not async await friendly. You do have to call a method to get a task returned and then synchronously block on that, so that it's you know, PowerShell is actually forced to wait for the results to come back in and process those, and then it spits it out into the pipeline and you're up and running. So there it is, in live stream. Thanks, y'all.